Thank you, friends, very much for coming back promptly. During the break, one or two people indicated to me that I was unduly pessimistic of thinking it would take us until 6:30 to finish our business, that we may be able to finish quicker than that. So that would be wonderful, and we'll try to do that. So our next report will be a report from Judy Moss on the progress to date of the Bill of Rights. I'm sorry, on the Bylaws Revision Committee.
The Bylaws Committee met yesterday. The Bylaws Committee being Peter Stroud and our president and myself. And if you recall, our president created a membership committee of Bob and Jack. And since membership is one of the key things in the bylaws, the membership committee was invited to sit with the bylaws committee yesterday. And we met all day on it. The major problem that I thought existed in the bylaws was the organization of NaCCRA and the relation, particularly of the FLICRA situation. I use FLICRA as representative of all the states where there are members of a state organization who are not members of the national organization. And so the definition of the national organization needed clarification. The committee and everything the committee has decided so far is all very tentative. It's got to be reviewed very carefully. But the Bylaws Committee emphasized that NaCCRA is an organization of individuals. And did I see a thumb up there?
Yes, I agree with that.
Good. Anybody who wants to butt in when they have nice things to say like that, please do. But
that NaCCRA is an organization of states, communities, and individuals.
no,
No.
no.
It is now.
Yeah, it is now. But that's the point she's making, is that it should be defined as an organization of members.
The members can organize themselves into chapters and or states.
Okay, but we're paying $500 a year for state dues from VACRA.
And we offer them merit.
That-
Yeah,
Let
that's-
Judy finish, we can talk about that as a part of it later. Okay.
So Judy, why don't you finish your report, and then we'll go to Jean's question.
We have eliminated the term community. A community generally is a specific CCRC. We're talking about chapters, which could be a specific CCRC, or it could be the CCRC next door that decide to have a chapter within the state. We went through, I must say first, and most importantly, that the president acted as secretary and took all the notes on what we decided preliminarily, and my thanks to Dan tremendously.
Could I answer Gene's question? I think what will happen is that that'll no longer be charged.
Okay. And Westminster Canterbury pays NaCCRA dues also, community dues.
Good for you, and we hope you'll continue to donate that on a voluntary basis.
No.
Okay, well,
We'll pay dues, but we're on a voluntary basis.
Well,
for
okay.
everything.
There'll no longer be those dues.
Okay.
Gene, look at this way. Let's say somebody out in one of those white states comes along and they organize and they say, we want to be part of NaCCRA, and so we've got 100 people who sent their dues, $20 dues, to Tallahassee. And then we come back and say, congratulations on sending us the $2,000 for the 100 people who you've recruited into membership. Now we're going to fine you $500 because you've become a state organization. How do you justify the fine?
I don't know.
Let me answer that in light
Okay.
of Dan's wanting this to go fast. We have not discussed dues at all yet. We haven't gotten up to that section.
Mhm.
All we have done is terminology, eliminating community,
Mhm.
because chapter takes the place of community. We have too many different possibilities, having a community, a chapter, a state. So people are in white states, or more than the white states, those states that don't have a strong state organization. We start from scratch. Those states that have a strong organization, we hope, and the motion that Bob made earlier, to investigate that on how to get them to be members of NaCCRA, because I think it's outrageous now to have a state organization that doesn't have members of NaCCRA. So far we are proposing that NaCCRA is an organization of individuals. We haven't gotten to the point of refining all the details of it. We did discuss first what the mission is. And the mission is an abbreviation of what is here. And I won't tell you what the mission is because that needs refinement of what we have agreed on yesterday. So I'm not going to go into any of the details of the discussion. It was a long discussion, and we didn't finish the minutes. We spent all day on it, and we didn't finish it because we have determined that the revision of the bylaws now has to be done correctly. That in the last couple of years, since I've been a member, and I guess that's been 3 years, there have been 2 bylaws revisions. And that's against the whole concept of bylaws. A bylaw is a permanent document by which you operate, and you only amend it occasionally. We are now going through a major review of the total bylaws so that when it is adopted, it is something we can live with for a long period of time, however defined. I'd like to spend the rest of our time now asking you, anybody here, who they have, if they have any suggestions that we should consider. We won't consider them today, but we will consider them at the next bylaws meeting.
If I could just, thank you, Judy, that was excellent. We worked all day. We did accomplish the revision of a major portion of the bylaws, but not the entire bylaws. The revision that we've accomplished needs to be smoothed out and reviewed. It's not final. The main burden of the effort was to simplify the bylaws and to decomplexify them. We accomplished a lot in that area. And as Judy has just mentioned, the purpose of the present consideration is not to, is simply to get from you, if you have any concerns about the bylaws, which this committee should have in its mind as it meets in the future. So I'm trying to get ideas from you about your concerns about the bylaws. Paul?
Yes, I have some very strong personal views on this, and
Yes.
I'd like to express them. Number one, I strongly believe that NaCCRA should be an organization of members. I realized that originally, when it started, that there was a rationale for having state membership and for having chapter membership. But today, the benefits for that chapter and the benefits for the state, in my personal opinion, do not warrant the dues that you asked for. I think that the chapter, unless we send money back to the chapters, the chapter thing should be dropped entirely.
By chapter, you mean community association?
Community
Because
associations.
chapters is another
Yeah,
development.
Yeah, we have, if we're going to charge dues, we have to show some benefit. For the individual members, the fact that we can go and advocate to the U.S. Congress in Washington, D.C., we can work with organizations like Bleeding Age to try to influence the general welfare of CCRCs throughout the country is a strong benefit that I think is, those kinds of things are worthwhile to the members themselves. For the state organizations, I made some suggestions in a letter to Bob, or an email to Bob the other day, and they include, like, if a state organization is to pay its dues, it could send a person, it could nominate a person to be a member of the board, and therefore influence what's going on here, the decisions that we make. I don't think that would, at least initially, that would not expand the board too greatly.
I'd like to speak to that when you finish.
You know, eventually it would. I mean, if you had 50,
No, I want to speak in opposition.
We're not
Finish
arguing
your
any
point.
of the points
What?
in this meeting.
But
We're just taking the
but
points
I-
down to consideration.
Yeah, I said, when he finishes, I'd like to speak
Yeah.
to that point.
I-
I'm just reserving a spot to speak.
you know, I do feel that if you're going to charge a state $500 for membership, you've got to give them something in return. And I don't see that exists today. What that is, I'm open to suggestions about. Having a member of the board is one. There may be many other things you could do in lieu of that or instead of that. I think it's worth it while to have a discussion of that, maybe a brainstorming session to think about how do we make that worthwhile.
The work of this committee is going to come back to this board, probably, more than once perhaps.
Yeah.
But what we want to do now is take down concerns. It's a very valid, useful concern. It may not be prevailing, we'll have to find out, but this is what we want to hear. We want to hear things like Walter's just given us. And I think it's fair if a member of the board has a concern about something that's raised, that we hear that also, but we're not going to decide the issue here. So Jack, why don't you give us...
No, I didn't mean to decide, I just,
Yeah,
I
sure.
wanted, my hope is to influence Walt, because
Right.
I suspect he might even agree with it when he thinks about it. We had that approach before, the states had formed NaCCRA and they had the right to really determine the board, and that didn't happen. They weren't that interested. And so, what you're saying is to justify the charge to the state. Well, the state can best benefit NaCCRA by producing individual members for NaCCRA. So the influence that the state would have would be proportional to the number of individual memberships that the state engenders in NaCCRA. So you no longer need the $500 or the community dues. That would be eliminated, and that effort that they use, the money they use, they could either contribute it if they wanted to contribute it, or they could use it to grow individual membership, and then the state would have influence if they had individual members. If they don't, paying $500, well, shouldn't buy you a board seat.
Are there any other general comments about any concerns you have about the bylaws that the committee should hear? Yes, Jean?
In 2009, our Residents Association voted to join NaCCRA and pay the membership dues, $200 a year, whatever it was. And then they created a chairmanship of the association. And the chairmanship and the dues kind of go together. So I'm the chairman now of NaCCRA, VACRA, and I'm expected, and I do. I give a report every month, and I recruit people. I try to get people to join both organizations. If you no longer have community membership, then my job is going to be eliminated. I will no longer be chairman of the Residents Association.
Well,
I don't see why that follows. You're going to have individual members in NaCCRA. And if those individual members want to form an organization, they form the organization.
No, our Residents Association, we didn't form a separate organization.
Oh, it's
What we have
part
is
of
the
your
Residents
resi-
Association, all the
Your-
residents are members.
NaCCRA and your Residents Association are synonymous? Is that what you're
No, the
saying?
Residents Association pays the dues for NaCCRA. That's all that comes out of the residents' treasury, whether they're individual
Oh,
members
so
of
I
NaCCRA.
couldn't decide whether I wanted to be an individual member
Oh,
or
no,
not?
I recruit individual members actively. But our Residents Association, out of their treasury, pays the dues.
The
So all of the,
$200
so this is, every member every resident is part of those community dues, only, but they're not individual.
Okay, they're not part of NaCCRA, they're part of
Yeah.
NaCCRA.
No,
They're not part of NaCCRA.
Yeah, they're not part of if they
They're
don't
not
pay.
part of NaCCRA. Paying
Yeah.
community dues doesn't give you a NaCCRA membership.
That's right.
so in other words, unless we have the person's name, address, and telephone number, they're not really part of us.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that doing away with the community membership, or, I don't know, chapter membership, I guess, to call it either one.
I think that the terminology would help because Mirabel is the same way. The resident council sends in the $200 because they support the aims of NaCCRA. That does not make the Mirabella Community Resident Council a member of NaCCRA. If we had a way to state it that honors the point of the bylaws committee, that NaCCRA is a organization of individual members and it welcomes individual communities supporting NaCCRA through their resident councils, that would keep your job. But it would affirm that NaCCRA is an individual organization.
Now, I'm thinking of the registration form now that goes out on the newsletter.
That's
We
right.
haven't
It
done
has
it
3
yet.
levels of membership.
We haven't done it yet.
It
But
has-
I gotta tell you that if that is one of the most disabling things on the membership list, because I go to community after community and they say, well, if we pay our $200, everybody in our house is a member of NaCCRA, not.
Nobody at our community says that.
Well, I've got to tell you, I've been out there, and that's what they say. And I've taken 3 years to try to get Al LeBlanc to get out of that hole and put me in that hole.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna resolve this
Yeah.
today.
No, we're not gonna resolve this, but-
Jean has had this view for many months and she'll continue.
This is a fine view, we respect this view.
We can
Thank you
talk
for
to you
expressing
separately.
it. The bylaws committee is gonna take it under consideration, we have to consider it seriously. And what this discussion has demonstrated is that there exists in the whole board the concern that the committee spent half the day on yesterday, which is that the membership issue is one of the most ornery issues that we have to deal with in the
And let's just
bylaw
make it
revision.
simple.
Yeah, and so we're gonna work on this, and we're gonna consider all the points of view that have been expressed here today very carefully, thank you. Okay, so, I'm hoping, aside from membership, is there any other concern people have about the bylaws? I take
Can I
it.
just add a question of terminology?
Yes.
I hope it's helpful for your deliberations. When you talk about a resident community, and let me just describe the context for where I live. At Ingleside at King Farm, there is a resident organisation that has no money involved at all. And it's a very strong and active organisation on behalf of the residents with their relationship with management.
Okay,
And they also have somebody on the main board.
right.
It's quite separate from that, within the same community of 300 odd people,
Right.
we have a NaCCRA chapter.
Okay.
which is quite separate from the
Quite
residents
separate,
association. And then we have NaCCRA statewide,
Right.
of which we are part of the chapter. And the terminology you were using, I couldn't separate. Were you talking about
Well-
our residents association?
Well, that's exactly
Or
where
are
the
you talking
confusion
about
is. That's what Jean has
the
trouble
chapter?
Yeah.
grasping.
So you're putting
She
your finger
can't
on
picture
the
what
thing
you
we're trying
have.
to sort out, and we
Okay.
appreciate your making
Yeah,
that
that
clear.
is-
And in fact, I believe that what Bill has said sort of dovetails into the general direction we're going in, which is that there will be chapters, but not necessarily resident organizations. And-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're a little bit more conformist to the direction we're going in than some of the other
So
situations.
maybe the way that would make it clear to you, Gene, is instead of paying $200 a year for your position, you'd pay 25 NaCCRA members. If you are able to bring 25 NaCCRA members to NaCCRA, your position would be secure.
No.
Well, and you
No,
will get.
I would not
Well,
be
you can
giving
say
them-
no, but that's.
I would not be
I'm saying-
expected to give a report at the Residents Association meeting. We'd have a separate organization here.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
Gene's and Bill's situation is not exactly analogous, that's correct.
And is it just terminology, or are we doing different
No,
things?
no,
Or
there
there
are
are
different,
different
there is
things.
terminology and there are also different situations.
Because the resident association is subordinate to management, and this is on a par with management and independent of management. That's a big difference.
Well,
This
your
has
your
nothing
resident
to do-
We're not
association is not subordinate
subordinate
to management.
I
No,
mean,
let's
if
not jump to that
anything,
conclusion.
there are a lot of us and there are only a few management.
Yeah, but I thought you said that it was to provide a communication channel to management.
It's one of their roles.
Yeah,
Okay,
It's to give a voice to the residents.
right, so it's not subordinate
This
to
has
management. That's-
nothing to do, in my understanding, with the resident association that you have or might have. We have a resident association. Some people call it a resident council. And this has nothing to do with that. It's the individuals who decide that they want to join NaCCRA. And what the individuals do is up to each.
well, it varies from community. At the Channing House, you chose to have it completely separate. Others have chosen to have it be congruent.
Okay, I think we've,
And there's no prohibition against an organization within a state.
yeah.
It just won't have any fee to do.
I think we've sufficiently, we're not gonna solve these issues here. The reason why we have a committee is because the issues are rather difficult. But we wanna be sure is we have everything kind of on the table for the committee to deal with. Gene's concern is absolutely important, and we have to deal with that. Bill has described something different, which also is something we have to have in view as we move forward. So I'm now looking to,
Could I make one more quick point?
yeah.
Yeah,
to-
I also strongly believe that a new state organization, which doesn't have any money yet,
Right,
shouldn't have to pay a state dues for a year or two.
right.
And
Right.
the board and the committee ought to consider that as
But
well.
under Jack's concept, not only will they have money, the more members they have, they will get refunds from NACCRA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably gonna
So
eliminate.
that's a possibility too.
Why not have it being, joining NACCRA be a benefit instead of a penalty?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that the bylaws committee is now informed of the ideas that exist in this board and will digest them and work on them and may come back and test things out on you before we actually unveil bylaws for your approval. Now, if it's agreeable, I'm gonna move to the next agenda item, which is the name storm. I'm sorry, the next agenda item is the Bill of Rights. Yes. Let me just tell you that we're going to discuss the Bill of Rights tomorrow in the bid meeting, and so I think given the pressures on our agenda here, we don't need to discuss it. I just want to tell you that the Bill of Rights has, although when I first proposed the countrywide discussion of the Bill of Rights, my hope was that it would generate interest in non-members to joining NaCCRA. In reality, that hasn't happened as far as I can detect, but it has generated a lot of interest of NaCCRA members. And so we've had a huge volume of feedback from NaCCRA members, which we're digesting. And you have in your packet for tomorrow, and I think also for today, an analysis of the feedback that we've gotten. And I'll appreciate your help tomorrow in having as coherent a discussion as possible when we'll ask the assembled group to comment on the draft Bill of Rights and the summary and see if more ideas that we should be considering come. I'm hoping that with the big-time editing work in the next 4 or 6 weeks, that by May, this board can consider a Bill of Rights to approve as a kind of advisory. So that's a progress report on where we're going. Yes, Frank?
Just one sort of add a progress report. Number one, I would say that the question of the Bill of Rights is why there are 38 members at Horizon House and why there are 74 members at Emerald Heights.
Right.
That was the only issue that brought forward NaCCRA and brought it forward as a measure. Emerald Heights has completed their revised Bill of Rights, and it has gone through their Residents' Council, and it has gone to their management, and their management has turned it down based upon recommendations, I think, from
Leading
Leading Age. We have finished basically our Bill of Rights. We'll be going to, we bring our NaCCRA members together as a unit. We haven't. We've had a small group doing the revisions. We will be bringing it together with our NaCCRA group, and then we will be bringing it to our overall body, and then to our council, and then to our board. So far, the references we've gotten, we asked our board to join us in the revisions. They turned us down on the same Leading Age words. Words were almost exactly the same between our place and Emerald Heights, which gives, I think, an indication of where they're coming from. So all I'm saying is that whatever you want me to say tomorrow at the meeting, I can, or have copies of what has gone forward, but those are finished documents based upon what you did in the draft, and our revisions probably are largely related to our own individual circumstances, and the draft was used in that context.
Which is exactly what we had hoped.
Yes.
So you should feel free tomorrow to say what you said now and more if you want.
That's fine.
And also to be sure that the Bill of Rights Committee has your draft. I've gotten so many drafts, I'm not sure which ones I have. So just be sure that the drafts that you've been working with, your revisions come back to us. So if you have any ideas that we have.
Well, I have a copy that I can provide you if you haven't already
You
gotten
don't
it.
have to, even when you get home, if you.
Yeah, no, but Emerald Heights is a finished document,
Right.
and ours we consider as a finished document.
Yeah, so if you can forward those, when you get home, if you
Yeah.
can send me a digital copy, that'd be
Dan.
great.
Everybody needs to know that